Not properly using resources allocated to beneficiaries through projects can sometimes be worse than the problems meant to be solved. I am talking about quality, delivery on time to meet a purpose. I'm talking about the fiduciary, which demands the use of resources for the intended purpose. The Federation of Consultants from Islamic Countries was founded, as you know, a long time ago in Turkey in 1986, I believe. And the patronage of IDB was given, and about 20 countries from the OIC were present at that time. Since that time, things have evolved greatly. In 1416 Hijrah, you can say that only 60% of IDB finance consultants were from IDB member countries, but today it has evolved a great deal. At the same time, IDB has provided more than $700,000 over the years to support the activities of the FICIC. IDB has also been utilizing more and more consulting firms from our member countries for the projects it finances. However, the world is transforming, and transforming very fast. With social media and the speed of the internet-driven tools, the world is ever so more dynamic and frantic. We need more for our emerging economies. New development models are also being put on the table to choose from our member countries. And new tools such as EGP is always branded as something that will be the miracle solution for solving all the issues. The opinion is that none of those tools can be effective if you remove the human touch from whatever we do, because delivery is about people, actually. So the role of service providers is beyond any doubt the most important aspect we should look for when we are concerned with project delivery. It is service providers that are in the best position to pave the way for ensuring better use of scarce resources, increased competitiveness, and the search for quality of outputs. And this simple fact is critical in Islamic finance, because the one that gives and the one that receives are jointly and severally bound in ensuring the success of joint ventures we call projects. Having more reliable systems and tools and service providers to expedite the procurement process is to potentially ensure consistency in quality delivery and reducing risks of failures. And this is a given we should understand. IDB would like FCIC to help to further enhance the skills and competencies of the consulting firms, especially in the least developed member countries, by devising and implementing training programs, collaborating more with member countries. At the same time, we would also welcome greater levels of cooperation between consultants and contractors, respectively, in the member countries, including among those from the LDMCs. The bank encourages FCIC and FOCIC, which is the Federation of Contractors, to continue to develop further and more rapidly in innovative ways. Today, the world needs innovative solutions in such a manner that they would be able to sustain and operate on their own by progressively building upon their membership basis. We are gathered here today for the next 2 hours or so to listen to and share ideas on extremely important topics, the true potential of service providers to unleash the power of procurement in project delivery could never be overemphasized. It is our collective role and responsibility to find ways and means to do so. I am sure that many initiatives will derive from the interactions following this kind of knowledge-sharing events. And it is important to convey and renew the IDB commitment to develop and improve the consulting and contracting professions in our member countries. So before closing, because I don't want to take too much time, I need to extend appreciation for Amir Mehdi Askari, my collaborator, Walid Farouk Yusuf, but also the management of the bank for allowing these types of events to happen. I cannot close without thanking Elif. I cannot close without thanking all of you for attending. And with this, I wish all of you a fruitful and successful knowledge sharing. Thank you very much.
Okay, now I would like to invite Mr. Nabil Al-Baba, President of Federation of Consulting from Islamic Country, FCIC, to present his opening remark.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. High Excellency, esteemed ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We would like to welcome you all and thank you for your presence here and the effort you made to participate with us to this event, especially some of you made long trips to attend and contribute to this event. Also, we would like to thank IDB, the Islamic Development Bank, who in sponsoring our events, and special thanks to the IDB personnel who hardly worked to assure good end to this event. Also, we should thank our esteemed speakers who put time and effort to best presenting us their valuable information. Before all, we do thank the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, which greeted us and opened the opportunity to perform this event in Jeddah city, near the most valuable holy places in the world, we mean Mecca and Medina. As I'm the president of FCIC, I would like to introduce you what is FCIC, the Federation of Consultants in the Islamic Development Bank in the Islamic countries, who is carrying out this event and what was its objectives in this regard. FCIC was founded in 1986 in Istanbul under the patronage of the Islamic Development Bank, IDB, and hosted by Turkish government with the participation of various countries from the 57 country members of the Organization of the Islamic Cooperation, OIC. Since it was founded, FCIC receives moral and financial support from the IDB. Now, FCIC is an affiliated institution to the OIC and is sponsored by the IDB, and its membership reaches 130 consultants from 27 countries, representing leading consulting firms in their respective countries and regions. The main purpose of this federation is to seek, within its professional activities, to bring welfare and prosperity to the communities they represent and to raise their standard of living. Within this view, FCIC with IDB have set the objectives to be achieved in order to realize the set mission. I will here just state some of the objectives that are directly related to our subject seminar. First, to arrange with international, regional, and local organizations workshops and seminars dealing with problems of common interest in the Islamic nations. Second, to establish a mechanism for a systematic exchange of information, technology, and expertise. Third, to organize country seminars, workshops, training dealing with subjects closely related to central problems facing development in the OIC member countries. So, last but not least, to foster, to promote joint ventures between local consultants and other FCIC members, and to promote interaction between FCIC and non-member countries of the IDB if considered necessary. Everybody knows that one of the major measurements of the welfare of any community is the percentage of its population that benefits from infrastructure and basic living facilities, which provision depends mainly on the consultancy services, of course, after securing the necessary financial resources. In that way, FCIC is a platform to raise the standard of living in the countries they represent. It's worthy to bring attention to the fact that economic development and welfare of any community cannot be revealed without implementing proper infrastructure. Otherwise speaking, no economic growth without development of sectors as transportation, water, wastewater management, solid waste management, infrastructure and utility development, education, etc. Here then comes the role of consultants and contractors who are implicated and involved in this process, driving it towards its success and thus to the development of their countries they represent. I will leave the podium now to our esteemed speakers, namely Mr. Khalil Agha, the FCIC Executive Director, Mr. Mamadou Dafi from IDEV from Senegal, Mr. Damir Enizo from Temirsu and Dek from Turkey, Mr. Hussam Abdel Jawad from SETS International, Lebanon and Cairo, who are going to elaborate on this topic and to enlighten us with some figures, statistics, and countries' case studies, revealing the role of the consulting and contracting industry in the general development of their countries. I greatly appreciate your attendance, and I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide our countries toward its welfare and prosperity. Thank you.
Now, to start our session, I would like to invite Mr. Halil Agha to present the first presentation on the overall importance of construction and consulting engineering on the development, economic growth, and employment.
Good morning. First of all, I would like to introduce myself, perhaps it's the better. My name is Halil Agha. I am the serving for the Federation of Consultants from the Islamic countries. Short abbreviation is FCIC. I am the agricultural economist originally. I served nearly 20 years public sector as an engineer, manager, and coordinator of the different projects. Also, more than 10 years, I served the international development organization institutions like World Bank, UNDP, FAO, IFAD, etc. And now, last 2 years, I am serving this federation. It's an honor to be here for this important subject. I would like to share my view and my experience with you. The subject is, when we look at the subject, is very honorable issues. Why? Because during our life and civilization, all the time, engineers or innovative people, and they provide different idea and different approach to development. My presentation, it will be 4 main topics. One of them I would like to share with you the main role of the construction industry. Why? Because mainly we are serving construction industry, is important. And what's the meaning of the consulting engineering? Because there are the different meaning and different approach about the consulting engineering, advisory services, etc. And I will give some general idea about the top 225 consulting engineers in the world, and I would like to share some information related our group's position, and as like a conclusion, how we can improve our contribution to civilization activities. When we discuss about the construction industry, construction sector are very important for the development of the our life, and sector provides all infrastructure for economical, social development, and several issues. On the other side, construction covers the creation, renovation, repair, or extension of the fixed assets in the form of buildings, land improvement of an engineering nature, and other similar engineering construction such as road, bridges, dams, and so forth. Also includes related installation and assembly works, site preparation, special services such as painting and demolition, management of the construction projects, and the renovation of our assets. Construction also covers the acquisition of the goods and services by the entrepreneurs undertaking construction works from the economy of the location of the construction activities. When we look at the overall sector's dimensions, we will see approximately $10 trillion total volume of the world, and also this industry is mainly an urban and rural-based activities included, and this is the crucial activity for our life. This industry can be categorized different subjects and different topics when we categorize such as large projects such as bridge, road, dams. This is the heavy and civil engineering activity included. Another, the construction works that involve the building of real estate, such as residential or commercial real estate assets. And the last one, the construction works that involve the building of the specialized items, such as electricity-related works or only wood-related or stone type of the activities. Therefore, we can categorize the construction industry for different approach and different ways. The construction industry, when we look at the overall figures, nearly 1/10 of the world GDP corresponding by the construction industry, and the total 7% of the employment mainly under the construction sector activities. On the other side, the construction services related very labor-intensive sector, mainly in developing countries. And for the developing countries sector, corresponding very high percentage in GDP and the employment activities. Also, this is our main topic and main idea is consulting engineering is a professional services that provides independent expertise in engineering, science, and related areas to government, industries, developers, and construction firms. Therefore, consulting engineers has different dimensions and the different type of the services. Also, we underlies ourselves, we are providing professional services for related sectors and related activities. Consulting engineering firms are responsible for designing and building countries' infrastructure, which is vital to our social, economic, and environmental quality of our lives. Within a consulting engineering firm, projects are usually carried out by teams that are comprised of the variety of the professionals and the disciplines in addition to engineering and technologists, but the team leader is usually professional engineers all over the world. Engineers mainly participated in the construction to key infrastructures such as buildings, roads, bridges, power plants, electricity, and communication grills. Also, these services underpin the infrastructural development of the economy and the smooth functioning of essential public services such as electricity generation, urban planning, transportation, and water treatment. Engineers also play a vital role in the development of production process and the adaptation of the new technologies. And consulting engineering activities has innovative approach and R&D activities all the time. Consulting engineering in some countries, such as French, I would like to give some information. The companies carry out the by architectural and engineering components for a project. In other cases like the United Kingdom, Netherlands, or Nordic countries, engineers and architects operated independently. In either case, they operate between the construction, engineering, and accounting sectors together. Consulting engineering activities are very important overall economy of the nations. In the UK and Germany, total consulting engineering services corresponding approximately 2% of the total turnover of the countries. This sector corresponding 2% of the total employment of the same countries. These figures came from OECD reports and OECD sources. When we look at the sector, according to data from the Eurostat, 74% of the European firms in the architecture, engineering, and technical testing sector employed a single person, while 22 employed between 2 and 9 persons. It's meaning that the sector characterizes micro and small enterprise generally. According to the Architectures Council of Europe, representing architectures in 32 countries, more than half of the firms were one-person firms, and only 1% of the architectural practices employed more than 30 staff. It's meaning that this sector has not a huge staff covers, mainly a couple of people, a couple of engineers or architecture can come together and to serve all activities. Time to time, these individual or small companies come together and to join good consortiums to prepare and succeed the project activities. When we look at the which type of the services of consulting and engineering providing, nearly 47% project designing, 23% project supervision, 16% project management, and the remaining amount mainly other consulting and engineering activities provided. On the other side, when we look at the output of the consulting engineers, when we look at the percentage, nearly 27% serve for construction sector, 21% environmental sector, 17% of the company's output related transportation, 13% directly industrial plants and industry sectors, and 8% energy sectors. And as you see, the consulting and engineering sector, nearly half of their activities directly related construction and the environmental sectors. And day by day, and it depends of the region and country, this service type changing, mainly in developing countries, infrastructure and construction sector is the main and crucial activities. Also, when we look at the engineering news record publication for 2015, nearly total turnover of the or revenues of the consulting engineering companies approximately 134 billion US dollar, and nearly 71 billion US dollar generated for domestic, and 63 billion US dollar generated for outside projects for first top 2025 companies in the world. Also, when we look at the first 225 largest firm in the world, 21 of them are the member countries of the IDBs in 2015. This is the small, I hope you can see. First, 6 companies, engineering and design companies from Canada, Netherlands, Australia, USA, and 7th of the biggest design companies from Egypt, Dar el Handase Consultants, and the remaining is highlighted yellow color, mainly our member countries consulting and design companies is from Katip Alami from Lebanon, KO International Consultant Kuwait, EHAF Consulting from Egypt, SSH Bahrain. It's so on, is going on from the different countries. We have approximately, as I said to you, we have 21 designing companies on this list for 2015. My last subject is directly related how we can improve our contribution for development of the countries, and not only physical, also we have to improve the life condition of the people, and how we can help to elimination of the poverty. First of all, we have to increase the collaboration. It's meaning that, as I give you some figures related to the size of the company, size of the engineering and consulting activities, we have to improve our networking and the collaboration between us. And we can grow and we can reach the good market and good projects when we came together. Second, allocate the funds from our funds for R&D and implemented the innovation and the new technologies for our activities. And this is the crucial issue. Also, we have to access to investment decision information on the time, such as our federation or another type of the federation's main duties to provide day by day or daily information our members, and to encourage to them involved this type of the activities. Also, we have to improve our skill management, capacity building, and management activities. If we improve our capacities and our capabilities, it will be good potential for our site to reach the new markets and to be successful. And when we need, it's necessary to share our information with our partners. As I said to you, we need a good networking between us, outside, out of the world, and another institutions. And the last related is we have to be ready as a consulting and engineering firms for the fourth industrial revolution. Already this revolution behind of this door, and we have to be ready how we will be approached and how we will be get the benefit from the new industrial revolution. This is my presentation. Thank you for listening to me. And if you need any further information, you can reach from our webpage, and also you can reach by email to me. Thank you very much.
Now I would like to thank Mr. Halil Agha for his smooth presentation and invite Mr. Mamadou Dafe for the second speaker and present his presentation on the role of consulting engineers and engineering company in WAMO region in Africa.
Bonjour tout le monde. Tout d'abord, je voudrais me présenter. Je suis donc M. Mamadou Dafé, je suis le directeur général du cabinet IDEV-IC, IDEV Ingénieur Conseil. IDEV Ingénieur Conseil a aujourd'hui, nous sommes en train de fêter, de célébrer nos 30 ans d'existence. Nous sommes un cabinet sénégalais installé à Dakar et dans deux autres régions du Sénégal où nous avons des antennes. Nous utilisons aujourd'hui 50 employés permanents et une centaine d'ingénieurs, de techniciens qui travaillent avec nous dans nos différents chantiers d'études. Je suis en même temps le président de l'Association des professionnels de l'ingénieur conseil du Sénégal, association qui est née en 2001 et dont je suis le président depuis 2012. Alors, cette année, je suis venu à cette conférence où je viens d'être nommé comme vice-président de la région 3, qui est la région au sud du Sahara. Alors, je voudrais d'abord remercier la BID pour m'avoir offert l'opportunité de venir un peu présenter la réflexion qui est en cours depuis quelques années au Sénégal sur le rôle et la place de l'ingénieur conseil dans nos pays respectifs. Parce que, en Afrique, en tout cas au sud du Sahara, le problème c'est que notre place, notre métier même est relativement méconnu. Nous pensons que nous sommes même tenus dans, j'allais dire, l'ignorance. Parce que simplement, probablement, aussi bien la communauté nationale que les autorités n'ont pas, disons, toute la connaissance nécessaire en ce qui concerne un peu ce qui peut être notre rôle. Donc, c'est le sens de la réflexion que je suis en train aujourd'hui de vous présenter. Alors, la thématique, c'est la place et le rôle des entreprises du génie conseil dans le tissu économique de l'espace UEMOA. En particulier, je parle du cas du Sénégal. Alors, ma présentation, c'est en, disons, 3 grandes parties. Il y a une partie introductive qui porte sur la justification de cette réflexion, les objectifs et l'approche que nous visons, les principaux constats sur la place de la profession dans le tissu économique, constat qui se traduit autour de la présence de la profession dans les marchés, d'une part, et le volume que les entreprises d'ingénieurs conseil sénégalais prennent dans cette part du marché. Enfin, la part dans la création d'emplois. Enfin, la troisième partie porte sur les conclusions. Alors, j'ai dit au départ pourquoi cette réflexion est nécessaire chez nous. Parce que simplement, nous considérons qu'il y a une très faible considération de notre métier dans nos différents pays au sud de l'UEMOA. Nous devons jouer un rôle important. Nous pensons que notre rôle est important, notre place est importante, mais cette place et ce rôle sont ignorés. Nous ne sommes pas connus suffisamment. En effet, depuis que notre association existe, contrairement aux autres associations, mettons des BTP, de l'industrie et d'autres associations qui sont officiellement reconnue au niveau de nos autorités, l'association des professionnels d'ingénieurs conseils n'a pas pris toute sa place qu'elle devrait prendre dans le tissu économique, en tout cas dans les réflexions qui sont conduites pour élaborer nos différents plans de développement. C'est pourquoi nous avons mis en place un plan de communication permettant d'expliquer et de faire connaître un peu cette place au sein des réflexions qui sont connues. Alors, disons que ce que nous visons globalement, c'est gagner la reconnaissance des autorités, d'une part, expliquer en même temps à ces autorités que dans tous les pays dont les entreprises d'ingénieurs conseils sont reconnues, il y a un accompagnement de ces ingénieurs conseils par les autorités publiques. Ensuite, faire participer surtout, parce que c'est ça qui nous concerne, nous, notre rôle, c'est faire en sorte que nous-mêmes, en tant qu'entreprise d'ingénieurs conseils, nous nous prenons en charge dans cette réflexion et dans cette conduite pour permettre un peu à ce que les autorités, la communauté nationale reconnaissent notre rôle. Enfin, faire en sorte que tout ce qui est lié un peu aux risques qui pèsent sur l'entreprise d'ingénieurs soit atténué au maximum possible. Alors, donc, les objectifs, je viens de connaître par les autres et faire connaître par nous-mêmes un peu ce que l'entreprise d'ingénieurs conseil représente. Alors, comment nous avons procédé pour faire ça? Notre approche, c'est d'abord faire notre propre enquête au niveau des entreprises d'ingénieurs conseils qui existent. Qu'est-ce qu'aujourd'hui nous représentons dans le tissu économique sénégalais, au travers de nos propres statistiques et au travers des statistiques d'une autorité qui s'appelle Autorité de la régulation des marchés publics, pour connaître aujourd'hui quelle est la part, quelle est la place des ingénieurs conseils et quelle est la part de leur marché dans ce qui est gagné comme marché au Sénégal par les ingénieurs conseils en général. Alors, quand on fait la cartographie de la présence des entreprises d'ingénieurs conseils dans notre pays, nous avons remarqué qu'il y a environ 179 cabinets qui interviennent, qui postulent à des marchés au Sénégalais, 179 cabinets sénégalais, contre 320 cabinets d'autres pays qui viennent d'Afrique, des autres régions africaines, ou qui viennent d'Europe ou des pays islamiques. Alors, sur les marchés qui sont passés au Sénégal en 2014-2015, nous avons considéré, comme nous avons fait l'évaluation, nous avons vu que le marché en 2014 était de 41 milliards de francs CFA contre 38 milliards en 2015. Sur la part de ces marchés, sur le marché global, les cabinets sénégalais en 2014 ont eu 37% du marché, ce qui évidemment représente 14 milliards. Ça montre un peu la part des cabinets sénégalais par rapport aux cabinets internationaux qui interviennent dans le marché sénégalais. Alors, qu'est-ce qu'on peut tirer comme conclusion de ces statistiques-là que nous avons vérifiées? D'abord, il faut que nous-mêmes, en tant que cabinet, nous affirmions notre présence. Nous affirmions l'importance que nous avons dans la conception, dans tout ce qui est réalisation comme projet d'infrastructure, comme l'a montré la précédente communication. Ensuite, que nous montrions notre solidarité en ce qui concerne un peu les jointures que nous entreprenons, entre nous d'abord et ensuite entre nous et les cabinets membres de la Fédération des consultants islamiques. Et enfin, que nous participions au renforcement de nos capacités respectives pour permettre un peu de déterminer, de fonder un peu notre place et notre rôle dans le tissu économique du Sénégal. Enfin, pour cela, il faut que nous-mêmes nous nous organisions au niveau de l'APIC. C'est ça notre objectif, c'est que nous confirmions que non seulement l'entreprise d'ingénieurs conseil est importante, mais elle a un rôle à jouer. Pour cela, nous avons mis en place un certain nombre d'instruments, la charte de la déontologie et de l'éthique, parce que nous pensons que c'est important, nous avons une profession importante et que pour cela, il faut que nous nous fassions accompagner par des instruments qui permettent à notre profession d'être dans les normes de la déontologie et de l'éthique. Pour cela, nous sommes en train de mettre en place l'Ordre des ingénieurs conseils du Sénégal, avec comme instrument aussi un mémoire des coûts pour que nos coûts soient normés, pour qu'il n'y ait pas de, comme on appelle, que des cabinets interviennent avec des prix qui sont totalement hors norme par rapport à ce qui est la norme normale. Ensuite, que nous fassions part de notre savoir-faire pour permettre un peu de gérer la situation par rapport à la concurrence. Ensuite, que nous confirmions un peu nos compétences et la responsabilité et l'engagement que nous devons prendre vis-à-vis des autorités sénégalaises. Ensuite, la contribution citoyenne que nous sommes en train de conduire. Voilà un peu ce que je voulais vous dire pour dire que cette réflexion est en cours. Elle va s'achever quand nous serons mis en place l'Ordre des ingénieurs conseils. Je vous remercie de votre attention.
Thank you very much for Mr. Mamadou Dafe for his presentation. I would like to invite the third speakers, Mr. Demir Inozu, for presenting his presentation on the role of consulting and construction management in economic development of Turkey.
Dear Mr. Chairman, dear Director, dear President of FCIC, dear participants, first I would like to introduce myself. My name is Demir İnözü. I am the chairman of Temelsi International Engineering Services Incorporation. I am a civil engineer, and at the same time, in addition to my responsibilities in my company, I am the president of the Association of Turkish Consulting Engineers and Architects between 2012-2014, and now I am in the board of our association, and I am also the chairman of the International Technical Consultancy Business Council of the Foreign Economic Relations Board. My presentation will cover the role of consulting and contracting industry in economic development of Turkey. Turkish construction industry is the main driving force in the economic uplift and development of Turkey. Construction industry, with its three main stakeholders, namely contractors, construction materials producers, and technical consultants, plays an essential role in the socio-economic development of Turkey. Located at the crossroads of three continents, Europe, Asia, and Africa, Turkey has historical and strong economic and political relations in the region. The geographical proximity of Turkey to the potential markets provides a great advantage to the global competitiveness of Turkish construction industry abroad. According to the rankings, now let's start with the Turkish contracting industry. Turkish contracting sector employing 1.9 million people has some 6% share in the gross domestic product of Turkey. Taking into account the direct and indirect impacts on other sectors, the share of the construction sector in the Turkish economy reaches up to 30%,
and the employment rate, excluding agriculture, is approximately 10%. Since 1972, Turkish contractors started to expand their activities abroad. Over the past 45 years, since 1972, Turkish contractors have undertaken 9,000 projects in 115 countries with a total value of some 342 billion US dollars as of the beginning of 2017. According to the rankings announced in 2016 by the leading international industry magazine, Engineering News Report, 40 Turkish contracting companies ranked among the world's top 250 international contractors, based upon the records of 2015, which is prepared based on the data of the overseas operations outside their home countries. Turkish contractors ranked second in number in the world after China for the last 9 years. And as of 2015, total amount of overseas projects undertaken by the 250 international contractors in the ENR list is 500 billion US dollars, and the share of Turkish contractors is $22.8 billion, which is 4.6%. And with this volume, Turkish contractors are ranking 9th in the total values of the international contracts. On this graph, you see the number of contractors, Turkish contractors, in the ENR lists between 2003 and 2015, which is continuously increasing. And as we see, 14 years earlier, in 2003, only 8 Turkish contractors were in the list. On this table, you see the annual international contract volumes of Turkish contractors between 2002-2015 and number of workers employed abroad, which is in parallel with the increase of the volume. Now, in this slide, you see the distribution of total international works of the Turkish contractors by country between 1972 and March 2016. As you see, the Russian Federation has been the leading market with a share of almost 20%, followed by Turkmenistan. On this slide, we can see the distribution of international works of the Turkish contractors by nature of work during the same period. As we see, major field of activities are housing, followed by roads, bridges, tunnels, then commercial centers and airports. Main advantages of Turkish contractors increasing their global power of competitiveness are their high quality and cost-effective services at international standards, experience and know-how, strong technical and technological infrastructure, risk-taking market policies, client satisfaction, and skillful management. With these characters, Turkish construction sector is contributing a lot to balance the payments of Turkey arising from the foreign trade deficits. And construction sector creates new employment areas and contributes a lot to the employment. Now we see the total employment in construction sector, which is reaching almost 10% of the total employment, excluding agriculture. The second main stakeholder of the construction sector is Turkish construction materials industry. It is one of the Turkey's most competitive industries in the international arena. They are among the world's top 12 producers. They are ranking in the top exporters of the construction materials. And the total market size of this sector is $61.5 billion US dollars, with a domestic market size of $44.5 billion and export volume of $17 billion. The industry focuses on sustainable development, energy efficiency, nanotechnology, research and development investments, and innovation. Turkish construction materials industry has a strategic importance for enhancing economic growth, employment, and innovation potential. Now let's have a look at the Turkish technical consultancy sector. In Turkey, total number of engineering, architecture, and technical consulting firms is approximately 22,000, with 85,000 employees. Out of these companies, 150 firms are registered with the Association of Turkish Consulting Engineers and Architects, with representing almost 5,000 staff. It is estimated that the total annual revenue of these companies reach $400 million US dollars, of which 290 million corresponds to domestic markets and remaining 110 million US dollars from international markets. Annual total revenue of the remaining companies is estimated as $4 billion US dollars. Turkish technical consultancy firms, with their diversified experience, which is obtained in many challenging projects in Turkey and abroad, are also playing an important role in the booming of Turkish construction industry. As a result of their success in the international business environment, some of the Turkish consulting engineering firms are also included in the ENR Top 225 International Design Firms list since 2010. And my company, Temelsu, has entered into this list in 2010, and since then, for the consecutive 6 years, it is in the ENR list. Turkish technical consultancy firms were involved in several projects in more than 40 countries by winning international tenders financed by international financing institutions and through PPP and EPC contracts. Sustainability, innovation, quality, time and cost control, and risk management are the first priority issues on the agenda of the Turkish technical consultancy sector, which necessitates involvement and contribution of consulting engineers at every stage, from planning, design, to construction supervision and project management. Here we see the distribution of the annual revenues of the members of the Association of Turkish Consulting Engineers and Architects as of 2006. It is given based on the total value of their annual revenues and by source. As we see, almost 7.4% of the companies having annual revenue more than $20 million, and 60% are having a revenue less than $3 million. And 60% of the annual revenue is coming from public sector, 20% from private sector, and 15% from the projects abroad. Now let's have a look at the Turkish economy and construction sector relation. Based on 2015 World Bank figures, world total GDP is $74 trillion. Turkey is the 18th largest economy with a GDP of approximately $718 billion US dollars, which is 1% of the world's total GDP. According to the estimates made for the year 2023, when Turkey will celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Republic of Turkey, GDP of Turkey is expected to reach 1.1 trillion US dollars. And projections made by the authorities in the United States and World Bank indicates that GDP of Turkey will be around $1.6 trillion in 2030. Here we see the World Bank GDP rankings based on 2015 statistics. Turkey is between Netherlands and Switzerland. Now let's come to the share of the Turkish contractors in the world construction services. Based on 2015 statistics, total world construction works volume is $9.72 trillion. And out of this figure, $500 billion corresponds to the international construction works, which is 5.1%. The share of the Turkish contractors in this $500 billion is $22.8 billion, which is 4.6%. Total world construction works estimation for 2020 is $11.9 trillion. And from this figure, we can come to a conclusion that the share of Turkish contractors may be about $28–30 billion in 2020. Based on 2014 statistics, total world all services export trade volume is $4.8 trillion. And world construction services export income is $105 billion US dollars. Turkey's share in total services export trade is $46 billion, which is almost 1% of the world's services. And Turkish construction services export income is $1.28 billion, which is 1.2% of the world construction services income and 2.8% of the Turkey's services export. And Turkey's target for 2023 international construction services export trade is $2.5 billion US dollars. Being the leader sector in Turkish economy, growth of construction sector and growth rate of GDP are closely related. This relation and dependency is clearly observed on these graphics, which will be shown after this slide. GDP growth rate, construction sector GDP growth rate, and share of construction sector GDP. Now, we see the values which are the basis for these graphics. And on this graphs, as you see, the red line is the GDP growth rate of Turkey. The blue is construction sector GDP growth rate, and the green is the GDP share of construction sector, the percentage. 1999 and 2001 economic crisis had a negative impact on Turkish construction industry, but after recovering starting from 2002, the sector progressively grew until 2006. Then, starting from 2007, economy entered into a recession period, followed by 2008 and 2009 crisis. Consequently, construction sector shrunk 8.1% and 16.1% in these years, respectively, but recovered quickly in 2010 in parallel with the start of large projects and grew by 18.3%, but after 2012, again the growth rate slowed down. As seen on the graph, due to the political uncertainties in the region, Turkish construction industry grew by 1.7% only in 2015. And as we see from the green line, Turkish construction sector has approximately 6% share in the gross domestic products of Turkey. It is observed that due to the general geopolitical problems in the region and negative impacts of global crisis, economic development slowed down at certain periods, and growth of Turkish construction sector was also negatively affected during these periods. Due to its interrelations with the other sectors, on the one hand, the inputs used in the construction sector help developing the production, manufacturing, and transport sectors. On the other hand, the demand for other buildings, such as housing, education, tourism, industrial buildings, increase the volume of construction activities. As we see, the power of construction sector for stimulating other sectors accelerates the growth of Turkish economy. Construction sector has a potential for bringing foreign exchange and capital to Turkey, which supports Turkish economy during recession periods. It should be noted that because of the diversification of the contractors, markets and specializations, and continuous demand from the domestic market for implementing several grand challenging projects and urban transformation program which is going on, Turkish construction sector managed to overcome these difficult periods. Recently, there are several ongoing and planned projects financed by government as well as by the local and foreign investors, creating demand for the construction industry in domestic market. Turkey is implementing 7 PPP projects totaling $44.7 billion, which corresponds 40% of global PPP investments as the global leader of public-private investments in the world. And one of these projects is Istanbul Third Airport, with a total investment cost of $35.6 billion, including a concession fee of $29.1 billion to the government, which is under construction by PPP model. Until 2023, it is planned to construct 5,700 kilometers of motorways by BOT model, and also 6,000 kilometers long highways and 13,000 kilometers of railways will be constructed. There are 60 city hospitals which is under construction and planned to be construction at a cost of $12 billion, and most of them will be constructed by PPP model. Under the urban transformation project, $350 billion will be spent. 2 nuclear power plants are planned to be constructed at a total cost of $45 billion. Another large project, which is Trans-Anatolian Natural Gas Pipeline, is under construction, and Çanakkale Suspension Bridge at a cost of $3 billion will be constructed, which will have the longest span, 2,023 meters. As we see, there is a big contribution of domestic markets to the development of Turkish construction industry. As for the international markets, there are huge investment opportunities in Africa, especially in infrastructure, where the benefits are expected to be very high. In particular, Sub-Saharan Africa is forecast to be the fastest growing region in the world over the next 5 years. Africa's absolute and relative lack of infrastructure necessitates establishment of international and regional cooperation and strategic partnerships. In this regard, African countries are among the main targets for Turkish contractors, consulting engineers and architects for several ongoing and prospective PPP and EPC contracts. Eurasian, Middle East, and North African countries are the key markets for the Turkish contractors, as usual. And recently, Turkish contractors entered into the markets of Colombia, Venezuela, and Peru in South America. Now, if we summarize all this presentation, we come to the conclusions that contribution of Turkish international contracting and technical consultancy services industry, together with the construction materials production industry, to Turkish economy is very important, as it affects the foreign exchange input positively, enhances economic growth, contributes to the balance of payments, increases the export volume, helps expanding construction machinery capacity of contractors, increases the employment rate, contributes to the transfer of technology and innovation, improves quality of locally produced construction materials, and increases the power of competition of Turkey in the international markets. Finally, I would like to emphasize that we, as members of construction industry of the Islamic countries, need to focus on establishing good neighborhood and good partnership for responding together to the shared opportunities and challenges for securing good prospects in the construction sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Demir Inuzu. And now I would like to invite Dr. Hussam Abdul-Jawad for giving the last presentation on the technology and innovation, role of consulting and contracting in driving the future of our cities.
Assalamu alaikum. Do you hear me well? Okay. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Hussam Abdul-Jawad. I am Director of Urban Transportation Technologies in SETS in Lebanon. And the main reason for structuring my talk today about technology and innovation is actually twofold. Number one, the main theme of the conference is about youth. And for those of you who don't know the population of youth or how many youth we have in the world, this was cited yesterday in one of the sessions. There is 1.8 billion youth around the world. 500 million of them are within the Islamic development member countries. So basically, we cannot really talk about the role of consultants and contractors with the relationship to youth without looking at the future of jobs and demand for jobs and what is the role of consultants and contractors toward that. And the second reason was actually, I'll tell you a story just to break the ice and entice you guys. I was watching the news with my kids a few weeks back, and there was a few kids from Egypt who have invented or made a robot that makes cotton candy. And among the team, there was an 11-year-old boy who was basically responsible for coding or making the coding or programming. I was sitting with my son, who was 5 years old, and he asked me, what is coding? And then my daughter, who is 8 years old, she told him, you can Google it. So we're talking about an 11-year-old kid who have coded a robot that makes cotton candy, a 5-year-old who is asking today what is coding, and an 8-year-old is telling him you can Google it. So you can see where are we going when it comes to technology and innovation and how this is affecting the future of jobs. I am as a consultant, I am struggling today to find specific jobs or acquiring specific skills that is not existent in the market. However, there is demand for these jobs. And this will be basically the structure of my talk today. So we as consultants or contractors, basically our main role is to build cities. And if we don't think about cities and how cities are evolving as we speak, then we'll be missing a big gap. Today, there are over 50% of the population lives in urban areas. And within 10 years, there will be 500 cities with more than 1 million population on them. And within 2030, there would be 41 cities with population more than 20 million people living in them. And by 2030, there would be 70% of the population living in urban areas. This is basically adding huge pressure on our infrastructure, and our esteemed speakers here talked a lot about, construction industry, building roads, building water, building infrastructure, and so forth. But basically, these challenges will become basically worse. We are facing huge challenges today, and this unfortunately will become even more challenging. So if we think about how to best manage, operate, and even build our cities in a smart way, you might think about it that a city will run and run efficiently. This city is being managed by a huge brain. And this brain basically talks to all the infrastructure we have today, whether it is, smart traffic lights, whether it is connected vehicles, whether it is autonomous vehicles, and even smart garbage bins. And this brain will take over the operations of this city. So this is where the vision of people today when it comes to the cities of the future. So is that utopia? Is that like fiction? No. And even if you look at history, Tesla has envisioned what we're talking about today 90 years ago. And this is basically the realm of Internet of Things. So Tesla said, when wireless is perfectly applied, the whole Earth will be converted into a huge brain, and all things being particles of a real and rhythmic whole. So all these things that are within our cities will become connected, and this will make us, as not only as contractors or consultants, as humans and citizens in these cities, to better manage and optimize the operations of these cities. I'll just show you a video just to tell you what is Internet of Things about and what are the technologies that are happening today as we speak within this industry. So if we talk about Internet of Things, you need to think about three things. It's about sensors that are connecting either people or processes. And this video shows you just, few examples of smart homes or smart infrastructure that is happening as we speak today. And I'll just leave you with 1 minute in this video to watch it. So I'm sure you got the point now, but the question out of this video, do we have the skill sets and the engineers today, if we have an RFP tomorrow to build that smart home, that I can just go as a consultant and bid for this project? The answer for this question is unfortunately probably no. There are not so many people now well equipped and have the skill set enough to go with this current technology that is disrupting the market. Okay, so what is the impact of Internet of Things on us, on our cities? Once we are connecting with things, we can monitor these things, we can manage these things, we can control these things, and eventually we can optimize the operations of our cities. Now, if we talk about sensors and things that are being connected, we cannot just let this go without talking about data. All these sensors will generate a lot of data to us. And for those of who work on this area of data analytics and data management, you might appreciate the volume of data that is existing today. When I first searched data and big data, it started with 3 V's, volume, velocity, and variety. And now they are expanding to so many V's. And just to give you a little bit of information of how big is the data, in only 2 years, from 2011 to 2013, the amount of data on Earth was doubled from 1.8 zettabyte to 4 zettabyte, only in 2 years. Someone might say, okay, why are you talking about data and why this is relevant? Yesterday, we had a session on Animi from the Global Shapers community, published a very insightful data set on surveys about youth and even youth within our member countries. And he made all these data open and available to public. And we can derive a lot of insights from this data. So that's one reason. The other reason, if any of you is working on smart cities, you will find that in any smart cities platform or framework, you'll find data analytics and data management as a core layer or a core component of what we do. This is by Smart Cities Council. This is by Deloitte. This is by Ernst & Young. This is by IDC. So data is core to what we do, because I believe if you cannot measure it, you cannot manage it. So we need also to keep that in mind. Do we have the skill sets today that will enable creating these types of jobs and employment? Now, someone might come and say, okay, who cares about all of this? Like, why this is important? Why are we talking about it today? Basically, the simple answer for this question is big players and big names care so much about this. IBM has been in this market under the so-called Smarter Planets for almost 7-8 years today. Samsung just acquired a company for $200 million, this company called Smart Things. It does basically some sensors and devices. And the biggest purchase in the history of Internet of Things today was done by Google, who acquired a company for $3.2 billion called Nest. And this basically makes smart devices and smart detectors. And even Google Electric, in the way they advertise for their apps and for their services, they have this movie, I invite you to watch it, it's called The Boy Who Beeps. This is basically talking about next generation and a new generation, a kid that approaches a traffic light on his dad's car, and this kid beeps and the traffic light turns green. Again, this seems to be fiction, but this is where vehicle to infrastructure communication is happening today. So, and also in the realm of autonomous vehicles, Tesla has been leading in the industry of autonomous vehicles and connected cars. This is a car, a Tesla Drive that was done by Tesla. And this is a completely autonomous car that drives itself, as you can see, in different environments, in an urban environment, in an environment that has an intersection, has a traffic light, has some people walking. Now, why this is happening today? Because of all the advances that you see and the sensors that you see in this car in front of you or this vehicle in front of you. Now, how this is affecting our work and our job, you can think about it that, in a few years, you might have driverless cars and all the jobs for these drivers will be basically abandoned, right? Today, within the transportation industry, this is the most disruptive technology. This created actually new business models. How many of you have heard about the Amazon dash bottom? the Amazon dash bottom is a thing that is connected to the internet. So if you get this tied bottom, you stick it on your laundry machine, and when the detergent is out, you just press the bottom, that thing will be connected to the internet. It places an order on Amazon, and Amazon delivers the tie to you in 2 days. This is disrupting the shopping industry, the trucking industry. Uber. All of you know Uber. Uber does not own a single car nor hired a single driver. However, it disrupted the whole transportation industry. Not only that, there is a company called Auto who actually work on driverless trucks. And the gentleman behind Auto was actually an ex-employee of Google's self-driving car. So he joined Auto, he made this company, and guess what? Uber acquired this company. So it's a very dynamic and disruptive industry that we're talking about today. Even in the clothing industry, this company basically makes sensor, they put it in the swimwear, and it sends you a notification when you need to reapply sunscreen if you are on the beach. All of this created demand for new jobs. Today, I'm not sure how many of you know this, the most wanted job, if you just Google it, the most wanted job is about computational complexity and big data and data scientists today. Now, if your kids are going to school or to university, are there programs there that will enable them to go in this area? Probably not. But it is changing. This has actually demanded new education systems, which has to do with city informatics and urban informatics and cities engineering. Now, why I'm saying all of this, if there's only one thing that you can take away from my talk today, is this slide. There is a very dangerous trend going on now that if we don't adapt quickly as an industry, as consultants, as contractors, very soon we'll ask the question, who moved my cheese? Okay? And a friend of mine is saying the cheese is not only moving, the cheese actually is melting. Okay? So, if you don't think about it this way, just Google what happened to Kodak, what happened to Motorola Razr versus iPhone. None of this exists today, and unfortunately, they did not think about the change and what is happening. So, technology is moving like a fast train. Internet of Things is happening, and more things will become connected. Big data is around us, and it will only get bigger. Some of this data is open and being liquid. Business models are changing, and the cheese is moving. So what are we doing when it comes to jobs and employment, and what is our role in the industry we're talking about today? So in order to best present that to you, I basically will show you today few sets of reports and recent studies that looked at the future of jobs and how is that affecting, how technology and innovation is affecting the future of jobs. And again, just think about it this way, that I'm structuring this talk because we're talking about youth today and the role of us as not only consultants and contractors, but as Islamic development country members of looking ahead. What are the kind of skills we need to have, and how is that affecting our industry? This is a recent report done by Pockings. It was basically saying this question, and this was addressed by a lot of experts. What if robots takes our jobs of today? And the outcome of this actually study was a quote by the US Treasury Secretary. He said that the biggest challenge affecting the governments of today is disruption of jobs because, or potential of unemployment because of technological changes. If we take a snapshot of what are these technological disruptions that are happening today, robots, computational algorithms, artificial intelligence, medical sensors and machine-to-machine communication, 3D printing, autonomous vehicles. These are the top disrupting technologies of today. Where are we at the industry? Are we ready enough? There is a big gap between how fast the technology is evolving versus what we are actually investing when it comes to the skill sets we have and we are ready for. And let me take you through a journey quickly through few countries. Some of them are developed, some of them are not developed or underdeveloped. And there is a very controversial topic. Some people would say technology will create more jobs. Some people would say technology will destroy a lot of jobs. And I hope within the next 5 minutes or so, I'll go through these slides fairly quickly to give you this. But before we go to that, I just want to highlight that there are differences between different sets of jobs. There are some jobs that are called at high risk of being eliminated and being computerized. And there are some jobs that are at low risk, and there are some jobs that are medium risk. If you look at the US, this report actually, this is one of the most famous studies that were done in the future of jobs and employment. It says that the advancements in technology are expected to put significant pressure on the American labor market by putting almost 50% of total employment at risk of automation or being computerized. This is in the United States. What is the trend in, let's say, Canada or the UK? The UK is very similar. They say that 30% of current jobs will be at high risk because of automation and computerization over the next couple of decades. Canada is saying almost the same thing, almost 42%. And OECD countries, the rate is different, or from the reports from the OECD countries, they say it is as low as 9% of the jobs will be at high risk of being automated. And I encourage you to read this report. It's very well structured and written, called Automation and Independent Work in a Digital Economy. Now, this is among different studies, but people said, okay, let's get the experts on that field, the people who are working on artificial intelligence, robotics, and just ask them, okay, what do you see in terms of the future of jobs? And this is why this topic is very controversial. 50% of these experts said that the future is bleak when it comes to the effects of technology on employment, and that a significant number of jobs will be displaced. This is 50% of these experts. The other 50% do not believe that technology will displace more jobs than it creates by 2025. So again, this is food for thought. You know, there is no 100% answer for this question, but there is a debate. And I encourage you to join this debate and think about it together. When it comes to there is actually, by the World Economic Forum, a very nice report called The Future of Jobs. And what they did, they get the chief human resource officers of all the big employers, and they asked them, what are the jobs that will be most endangered or will be most displaced because of technology and innovation? And this is the list of these jobs: mobile, internet, and cloud computing, processing power, and big data. These are the jobs that will be that will disrupt the industry and have a significant impact on employment. If we compare the global south with the global north, you will find that the medium skilled occupations, which basically the types of jobs that are intensive when it comes to routine and cognitive and manual skills, are the ones that are most in danger, and these are the ones that will be probably replaced and eliminated by computerized jobs or technologies. If we look at developing countries, actually studies show that the labor market in developing countries are more likely to be negatively affected by the technological advancements compared to developed countries, but at a much slower rate, simply for two reasons. Number one, the slower technology adoption. Number two, the lower wages, because sometimes it becomes infeasible to replace a very low wage job with a computer or being automated. So that also trend is affecting developing countries and will equally affect developing countries as well as developed countries. So why should we care about this? Or how can we think about it as firms and contractors? This is a very thorough report that talks about technology at work, and it talks about future opportunities and future shocks. And they define three things, and I really encourage you to read about these three things. Something called skill-biased technological changes hypothesis, and something called task routine-biased technological changes hypothesis, and something called job polarization. Basically, what this is telling us is that there are some set of jobs that require certain set of skills, and this will be disrupted in different rates based on how advanced are these skills and how advanced are these jobs. So there is no single, or there is no silver bullet solution for, this specific job will create that many, this specific skill will create this many jobs, or vice versa. There are some hypotheses in that field, and these hypotheses are basically well articulated in these two reports. This is by Citi, and this is in collaboration with Oxford School. very thorough report that talks about exactly how can we, as people working on the industry and acquiring these skills, should be prepared in the future. So, why this is important for us? One thing that you should think about is that within our firms, people actually today, these are four findings from 4 different studies that was reported by a very thorough report by the World Bank in 2016 about how firms and consulting companies have looked at this trend of technology and innovation. One of them was talking about broadband adoption in firms that will complement skilled workers that has non-routine jobs and will replace them, will replace the routine jobs slowly with time. The other one was a finding on wage inequality. I cannot, if I have 2 engineers now, one of them is very, geek on data analytics and data management and data visualization, and the other one is just a typical engineer, and both of them were graduated in the same year, probably there would be a difference in the wage or the salary for each of them. So how can we cope with that? Are we having 2 different salary scales based on the skill sets of our engineers today, or is it just, one scale or one vertical? Tax allowance for ICT investments, because all these technological changes, people actually have been, or some countries have been giving tax allowances to investment in ICT. Domestic and imported technologies. Yesterday we had a lot of talks about when was the discussion about the youth empowerment. Are we importers of technology, or are we having some local technologies and we're trying to export them? And what is the differences between them? What are the jobs that will be generated versus the jobs that we will lose if we get our talents away, basically, or have huge brain drain? So what are the policies that have been adopted in order to meet these technological changes? Number one, anticipate future skills needs. And this is, I think, this is a message that I'm actually doing right now, and I'm suffering from. I need some skill sets that I cannot find, and I have some projects that I want engineers to work on, but they are not in the market. Or if they are in the market, they are not in this part of the world. They are probably somewhere else in the advanced or developed countries. Number two, participation of all partners. We cannot just talk in silos here about contractors and firms without involving the educational system, without involving the NGOs, without involving international donors. And sectorial approaches, like if you work and intensively invest in these areas, you might just start with one sector. You don't have to do it across all sectors in the industry. And we really need to have quality training and relevant quality training that is coping with the international industry and technological changes. And broad access to this training. This should include youth. This should include women. This should actually include kids, not only youth. And eventually, we need to have in place policies to assess our performance as not only as a firm, but again, as a society, working on that field given all these technological changes. So I have only 2 more slides. I'll show you what are the policies that have been in place to look at the potential negative impacts of employment and the potential positive impacts of employment when it comes to the 2 sides of the coin. These are some of the policies that have been adopted, and again, most of what I'm talking about today is based on references and reports and so on. If you're interested, I can give you the whole list. But these are some of the policies that were designated to buffer the negative impacts of the technological changes. Number one, benefits outside of jobs. Today, all our benefits as employees is based on our jobs today. But these jobs might be disrupted in the future. So many people might be unemployed. So how the whole society will be dealing with this issue? Number two, basic income guarantee. And by the way, each of these items is subject to debate, whether you should give people, basic income based on a certain social status, regardless of their actual work, or not. But as we speak, there are some countries who are adopting this. Earned income tax credit. For some people who have low income, you give them a tax credit, and basically this way you are taxing the rich in order to have a homogeneous society at the end of the day. Activity accounts for lifetime learning and jobs training. So when you have people, you take some of their salaries, put it away on a pension or something, and then you keep that pension and invest in it in order to make sure that you have always future training or training that matches the future needs for these employees. Incentives for volunteerism or voluntary work. Give incentive to people to do just something outside of the work. not everything has to be work-related because unemployment rates are expected to be very high. And they encourage corporate profit sharing. Within a firm, you need to really get your employees or your engineers on board as a corporate, not just an employee, and there is a very high rigid management on top, and there is these silos between the management and the employees. Lastly, what are the policies designated to leverage the positive impact of technological change? These are very obvious and easy. Number one, enable the creation of more digital jobs. Number two, increase access to digital tools with all the softwares and tools available. And number three, empower the workspace on that digital age. So I hope by this presentation, this was just a food for thought about, there are so many technological advances and disruptions that are happening today, and we still have, our typical way of thinking of, creating our jobs or creating or responding, being very responsive rather than being proactive in the way we look at the future. And with that, I'll leave the floor to Mr. Chair to take it from there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Hussam, for your presentation. The floor will be open for any question, any request for clarification, and our panelists will be very happy to respond. If there is any question, we are ready to take it. So, if there is no any question, I would like to thank everybody for participating at this session, and I would like to thank all the panelists for their efforts and presentation. The meeting could be... You have question? No, if they don't have any question. So, you have question, okay. So, we are looking for question.
You're from Turkey. I have a question for Mr. Abdul Hassan. Thank you for presentation. I want to ask you, do you have any opinion for the new about for your presentation for Islamic countries? Which way we want to do for the computing age of and what you can say for the Islamic country for your presentation? Okay. Can you understand?
Yeah. Is that okay? Thanks for the question. So basically, your question is related to what can we do as Islamic development countries members here in response to all these changes in technology and innovation and so on. My takeaway message of this is we really need to develop the skills and tools that will enable us to catch with all these advances and technologies. And this could be through so many venues. One of them is proper training. One of them, the other one is do a specific study on our region. I have seen so many reports and studies and reviewed all of them thoroughly. A lot of them are done in the global north. A lot of them are done in OECD countries. Very little or very few actually were focused on developed countries as well as Islamic development member countries, for example. So we might have some specific needs and requirements that are not the same as the developed world. And specifically, if you compare Canada, United States, and the UK, if you compare their numbers, they are in the numbers of 40 to 50%. They see that there would be unemployment or disruptions to jobs. However, if you look at OECD countries, the reports say that this will be only in the ballpark of 10%. So there is that also the deviation between reports by international development agencies like the World Bank and the Economic World Forum. So maybe we need to think about specific needs for us to report on that and to study our needs as well as what are the things that we are lacking, because our challenges are different from their challenges. Okay.
Any other question?
By the way, the questions can be in English, Arabic, or French, because we have instant translation. So those who can feel they want to raise question in Arabic, English, or French, the answer can be also in Arabic, English, and French, and we have instant translation. Okay, since I have the floor, I have a question to the last presenter. One question I have is that I could not see, I was expecting to see more on the presentation on creation of joint ventures to address the need. And that I did not see in the presentation. So maybe the last presenter can speak a little bit about creation of joint venture to address specific targeted assignments, because in the Islamic Development Bank, we always encourage the joint venture for transfer of know-how, and that skill mix will help to address multiple tasks. Thank you.
Thank you. May I ask a question?
Okay.
First, I think the panelists should clarify this question, and then we will be at your disposal.
Okay. Thanks for the question. And again, I want this to be a discussion. So if any of the panelists have, also some ideas to throw in, please feel free to do so. So one of the things, I'll give you an example of how can we do that. Through an example in the MENA region, we work with international development agencies sometime to raise specific skills and do training programs for kids in the schools, specifically, let's say, for data. We introduce the concept of data to them and do certain training programs. That was one exercise. The other one was about robotics and technologies. There are programs that we can think about in terms of raising the awareness. And again, this doesn't have to be with kids. It could be with youth. It could be specific training programs that maybe the Islamic Development Bank could fund with local partners in different countries. And this has been done elsewhere. I think we don't need to reinvent the wheel. All what we need to think about is the business model of how to make this, number one, to maximize the outreach for the member countries. Number two, to have a priority of which areas we need to focus on. So I think this is the best way to go forward. And this could be done through specific committee that could be formed that has a specific task force, and they could report on that perspective.
Thank you very much. The next question.
Thank you. I've been very impressed with the last presentation. IDB has done a lot to all member countries so far. I'm from Indonesia. And as I have seen that IDB has done a lot, especially to complete the infrastructure for universities. And my university is one of the IDB project in Indonesia. And every time we have meeting like this, we always have a list of development and progress of all member countries. But your data just presented as brought from Europe or from the United States, from the West. Could you give us data for our member countries in terms of innovation in technology and other things due to the result of the IDB project? Thank you.
Okay. So there was nothing specific that I have came across that are specific to the Islamic development member countries, but the stuff that I have looked at, and I highlight the differences between, let's say, the developed countries or the West versus developing countries. So there are two things. Number one, that these technological changes are affecting us too, but at a slower rate. It is not at the same rate as the West, but it is definitely affecting us, and it is foreseen to affect us even more badly because we rely a lot on some of the routine tasks that could be, if the same technology or the same pace of technology continues, that could be very easily replaced by computerized jobs. So that's number one. Number two, that I believe we have a lot of innovations that are not covered or uncovered. Like, you go to this village or you go to this specific country and there are some social innovation on the ground that is addressing a specific need. But we have this lack of communication. Nobody is uncovering that and basically telling the outside world that this exists here. And I have seen it in multiple cases, not only in Egypt or some parts of the Middle East. So one part of it is to unleash the potential of all these existing innovations that, number one, we are not aware of, and number two, it might have potential to benefit not only this specific country, but other countries.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other question? Dr. Hisham?
Okay, thank you very much for all the speakers. I believe the construction industry has changed over the last several years considerably through introduction of BIM technology and software, which is building information modeling. And the question is addressed to FCIC and FOCIC. Do you have any information or data about adoption of this software, amongst Muslim countries amongst consultants and contractors? And what are we doing to ensure that we are not lagging behind, because this software will increase efficiency in the industry and also the cost savings in implementation of projects? Thank you.
Thank you. It's a crucial question. As a FCIC, we have not exactly data for the construction sector, but for the consulting and engineering sector, of course, our sector can adapt it herself easily, new technology and the new software, of course. Also, we are adapting ourselves, not pure engineering, also we are doing the social engineering and environmental issues. Therefore, we can adapt it. We have to adapt it ourselves. World is changing suddenly, as he gave the very nice information related to technology is in our life day by day, in each second, changing our view and our approach for our targets. As our members, most of them, they are using the new software, new technologies easily. Why? Because depend of our clients, depend of our activities. But for the construction, I believe that is adapting easily. When we visit the different countries, we can do some observation, the quality of the outputs, the quality of the systems. They are adapting, but it can be discussable easily. What's the fasting of the adaptation themselves? Thank you.
The last question, as we are closing to time and next event is approaching, Dr. Sumare.
Okay, so thank you very much. First of all, I thank all the panel for their skill mix and good input in terms of quality, in terms of presentation also. I have some contribution and downstream one question. Regarding this platform of exchange, I think it is we are dealing with youth economic empowerment, right? I think it's very important. This question is for FCIC. What do you plan to set up? How do you plan to set up a platform of exchange? I think it was raised during the presentation of this browser from ICT. To do a platform of communication between the developed country and developing country, and to create this kind of strategical exchange or a strategical alliance between the consultant in developed country and consultant in sub-Saharan country or developing country. I think it's very important. This kind of joint venture to favor this kind of joint venture also between these developed country firms and developing country firms. I think it's very important. How do you want to address this platform exchange? Because if you see, as MDB, we anticipate in this process, because if you go to the RFP, that is the request for proposal, you have 10 points reserved for the input of national experts. It's very important. That is to oblige you or to incite you to use the national expertise. Very important. And also you have this transfer of technology also with 10 points. It's very, very important. And the other thing I want also to more elaborate is sustainability. For this ICT, what are the elements, some safeguard or some measure you can handle so as to make sustainable your ICT technology in the future? Because if you refer to the SDG, we have SDG 12 for procurement, who make the procurement practice very sustainable in line with the priority of the country to make job in the field. So I give just some example. If you have a feeder rods, it's important to involve during the implementation of this work the community on the field. In ICT, how you handle this, and also to take into account this environmental also safeguard in ITC, how you handle this so as to make sustainable this technology. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Who will? If you want, I can. Yeah, if you want, I give a very summary information what we are doing as a FCIC. We have different platforms directed to our members and our stakeholders. One of them, we are organizing international conference each year after the OIC summit in Istanbul, and we are discussing each year different subjects. For example, last year we discussed high technology applications for the engineering and consulting activities, and we invited different sectors representatives from the ICT, from the contractors, from the public sectors, etc., and we discussed how we are implementing the new technologies, mainly ICT technologies, our activities, our services. And another platform we are organizing with IDB country seminars. During the country seminars, we are also sharing our experience, our knowledge, and this is the good platform to exchange our experience related to this type of the technologies transferring. Also depend of our members, we are ready to organize this type of the activities with IDB support and with their transferring their wishes to transfer the new ideas, new perhaps decisions, or depend of their needs, countries' needs or regional needs, such as procurement activity, such as which type of the procurement details they need, which type of the company, designing companies or consulting companies needs. We will ready to support our members and their stakeholders. But the problem is to create a demand and awareness about these issues. Therefore, this type of the platforms is the good tools to reach our members and other stakeholders. Thank you. Nabil, do you want to add something?
Yes. As to my experience with FCIC during last 10 years, as I mentioned the first session, that one of the aims of FCIC is to interchange information and experience between Islamic countries. And during the last 10 years, a lot of country seminars and good country seminars have been performed in Africa and Central Asia and Turkey, where really A lot of technical information has been exchanged between developed countries and other countries, and also some of technical softwares, useful technical softwares also has been introduced and made training on it, if you, as I remember, during the last 10 years. And we shall continue, inshallah, in this field.
The only thing I might add is within our member countries, there are some differences when it comes to technological uptake. You know, some are somehow advanced. You know, we have seen examples from Turkey and and elsewhere, and some are still lacking a little bit. So there might be, you know, this synergy between what we call it tawama, or the linkages between, you know, you get this big brother and this, you know, let's say beginner on that field, and then basically there might be some joint programs that can enable this synergy between the different member countries. And one of the things that I usually address is the local context. You know, so many times, you know, I define a vision or come with a vision from a specific or review it, and this has been done in the global north. And when you come and project it and make it contextualized to our region, there are so many changes and variables that we need to put our inputs on, and nobody else from the global north will tell us about that. This is information that has to come from us and within us.
Yes. Microphone. Let's microphone they bring. Not the trans. Maybe. Microphone.
Thank you very, very much. Okay, just one question, last but not least. Regarding this cross-development thing, because MDB, they signed at 9 April 2010, cross-development. That is, a lot of consultants are debarred by World Bank or African, these five, ASEAN Development Bank. What are the safeguards the Federation made into place, or so as to reduce the list of these sanctioned firms by MDB, because if you have some fraudulent or corrupt practice or coercive practice, they debar for one period. And what are the safeguards you make into place so as to reduce the list among these firms debarred, or to avoid this debarred firm list among FCIC? Thank you.
Safeguards. Yeah, mainly, as I said you at the beginning, I served the World Bank, and during my term, I was responsible safeguard issues project implementation in Turkey, and we conducted several safeguard training programs for the beneficiaries and the client side, and also some of the consulting companies also joined this type of the meeting. As I said, if there are any demand, we can do together this type of the training program and awareness program easily. Some of the countries easily. I believe that you are right. Some of the less developed countries need some safeguard awareness and safeguard activities. We are ready as a FCIC to make a collaboration on these subjects.
Sorry, thank you. Because let
me reword my question. That is, I say there are some firms right now sanctioned by some MDB, sanctioned, that is by fraudulent practice and so on. It can happen among the FCIC. There are some firms sanctioned by some MDB. What are the measures you plan to set up, or the ongoing measures so as to address, to reduce this list or to avoid the sanction of some firms among you, or some firm through the Ummah? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's discuss with Dr. Sumaredis at the break as they are coming and entering for next events. I would like to thank everybody for active participation in the session, and also thank to all panelists for their efforts in preparation of the presentation and coming here. Thank you all very much. Thank you very much.